Before we start this episode, we would like to thank our sponsors. The first one is Progress Telerik. They have amazing Blazor UI controls with over 100 components. So if you need something, they probably have it. Check them out at bit.ly/Blazor UI.
And our next sponsor is If Insurance. And they want to decrease injuries in society and need your help crunching historical data with .NET technology to predict the future. Their tech community is over 1,000 people and they are growing like never before. And you can check them out at bit.ly/ifdev.
But now, let's continue with the show. Welcome back to Coding After Work podcast. Today's guest is Evelyne. Welcome.
Thank you, Julie. Glad to be here.
Who are you and what do you do?
Oh, well, that's a hard question. I live in Belgium. So also not an English native speaker, but I will do my best. I am 34 years old and living in the neighborhood of Antwerp, which is a great city, has a lot of history. I really love it. I studied as an architect for buildings and stuff and everything. Because actually when I was younger, I wanted to get into game design and I wanted to design landscapes and everything that I ever dreamed of. But I got more serious. I studied real architecture. And then afterwards, I still went into IT. I started as a developer for a few years. Then I got to know the wonderful world of user experience design. Because I was working at a project, some dinosaur that was 10 years old, had the matching interfaces. And I realized that people had to work in that for 8 hours a day in those ugly, not user-friendly at all interfaces. So that way I got into UX. It has been great.
So UX can be a very broad subject, and there's a bunch of different rabbit holes to dive into. What is your specialty or branch in UX?
Well, as an architect, I'm still kind of looking at applications like I'm looking at a house or I'm looking at a city. It's important that when you get inside or when you open a page, that you exactly know where to go. You know how to navigate the space, how to go from one task to another, and how to complete that task as fast as possible while having a nice experience that people think like, this was actually fun to do.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Things should just work.
Things should just work.
But they seldom do. As we actually got to know right before recording this podcast, because all of a sudden the software stopped responding and it also had some UX issues showing an animation on a disabled button. So we had some fittingly UX issues trying to record this. So they are everywhere.
Yeah, I always, sometimes I give courses in UX to starting developers. And I always start asking the question like, okay, what was the last time that you got angry at your computer? And you see the emotions are so big, especially anger emotions. So this is kind of what it's all about. It's UX has a lot to do with psychology, emotions, and just the response you get out of people.
Yeah. But let's say that you just started a new project. How would you go about a typical project? What is the first thing you do?
Well, I work in consultancy, so we have a lot of different projects for a lot of different clients in different sectors. So the first thing that I do is try to get to know them, do some background checks. Well, that sounds a little weird, but I will Google them. I will Facebook them or their offices, their sector, what it's all about. And then the first thing I will try to do is try to get a hold of a company visit and really get into their offices, get a group of people together who will work with the software that we will write later. And then, start with the who and then the why.
Yeah. And where then that's what I need to fix.
Yeah, exactly. Getting to the deeper root of the problem, but also really being on the floor, seeing how they will use it. Because we have so many different applications. And then, afterwards you see this is not going to work. Why didn't we think of that? We actually had one client a few years ago, and they do the handling of radioactive waste.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to the plant, and I was like, okay, we did a whole workshop with everyone, and we saw okay, you need to be able to do this and that, and what is your task and what is your job and what does that entail? And it was really nice. We had 5-6 hours of workshop, and we kind of had rough ideas sketched on the board. And then afterwards, they finally gave in to our requests to see the plant and to get a little bit closer to the radioactive vets. So we suited up completely safe and sound. I actually had 2 left shoes. So it wasn't that comfortable, but okay, I was inside. I didn't mind at all. And then we followed them, and we saw okay, but you're in all this protective gear. No way that you can handle a mobile phone or an iPad or none of that. Sometimes you cannot take electronics with you. So we were thinking okay, we need to have voice recognition or this kind of new way of communicating with things. So it's really useful, really fun also to get to know other people's work.
Yeah, definitely. And you can learn so much about it. And I find a lot of the times, the people who give you the brief of what they need are sometimes confined to a little box because this is the way we have always worked. Therefore, I think this is the way we need to work. And this one thing might solve everything. But then it turns out, if we just turn it around, like you said, voice interaction would solve so much problem for them, but they never thought about that because they didn't think it was possible. Do you find that as well, that you get a brief in the beginning, but then when you see the clients or the users, it differs?
Oh, exactly. It's a little bit always like that.
I didn't want to say it.
But mostly, it's just human nature. People come to you with a kind of solution before they really tell you the problem. And it takes hours to get to the deeper root of that problem, to really analyze what their needs is. And then it is just so great to be able to tell people, but nowadays you can do this. You don't need to have an Excel. Just people love Excel and Excel so much. And it's rooted into everything that everybody grew up with as IT solutions. And I think 90% of our task is to replace this Excel file that nobody really grasps the power that we have today.
It's really fun that you had that as an example, because I was working on an application and they said, we need to export this to Excel. And I'm like, why? And they said, well, we just do it. Sure, I can do it if you tell me why, because I need to know why. And the only reason why they wanted it in Excel was because there were, I think it was 3 or 4 columns that they wanted to sum. So they wanted a sum of all those 4 columns. And I'm like, but the system can do that. We can do that. We can throw that up here, just on the top. And actually what they wanted was the diff between the columns. That was even easier because we could just
do the computation.
That. Yeah. And they were like, no, I have my trust more in Excel. And I'm like, no, you don't. We can do this. We can give you these numbers. We can color them red or green, depending on what is right or what is wrong. We can do all of this without even touching Excel. And they were like, yeah, okay, let's try that.
And it will save them so much time and frustration because they need to go from the system, open Excel, sum the things up, do the math, and then go back to the system again. So it will save them at least like 5 minutes or something. And that's a lot.
I find myself asking that question a lot. Why? Why do we need this? And I think that's a very good start for when thinking about UX. Why? Why do we need this? Do we actually need something else?
And same goes for when you are using templates, I would say. Just don't blindly take whatever template you had for form or something. Ask, why do we need to know the gender of this person? Do we actually need to know it? No, mostly we don't. Just ask the stuff you need. But as a humankind, I think we're a little bit lazy.
Well, it's funny. I was working on a presentation for a new course on design patterns that we want to give. So we'll guide developers through navigation patterns, forms, and tables. And I just finished writing the slide for why should we use a table?
So why should we use a table?
Well, I will tell it now. Most of the time, you don't need to use a table. But the same goes with this Excel thinking and object-oriented programming. It's in the database like it's a table, so people want to show it in the UI as a table. But people only really want to see tabular data when they're comparing things. Or when it's really the columns and the rows have dependencies that you need.
Yeah, need and make sense.
Yes, but for everything else, stay away from tables.
Yes, agreed. You heard it here first.
So do you have an example of a project that you think was a really successful project when it comes to improving the UX that you worked on?
So a few years ago, we were asked by Government of Justice, the Justice Department, to help them write an application for the calculation of alimony. It used to be an Excel file.
Of course.
And that Excel file was sent by email from judge to judge. And then people would have to email their judge to get a calculation of what the alimony would look like after divorce. So they said, like, okay, we know that it keeps people up at night to know what the financial aspect will be of a divorce. So let's give them some kind of calculation tool to get an estimation beforehand. And so we went there, we went to talk with the judges, some users. We got together with them, which was a really weird environment because all the judges were in dresses and in attire. I don't know the right English word for a judge dress. So sorry, judges. When we saw that people are thinking about it just every minute of every day while we're going through such a heartbreaking divorce, especially when there are kids involved. So they said, like, yeah, even when I'm in the train, I think about it. When I'm up at night, or when I'm doing my finances and I have no idea what this will mean. So we try to make an application that can have a rough estimation by just inputting 3 numbers that you normally know by heart. Then there was also the possibility to have a more detailed. So the mobile version of it is just those 3. That you can expand, of course, but you will see just those 3. Those 3 will give you a rough estimation and it will guide you through the process and say, like, okay, this is going to happen. This might have an effect on that number or not. And if you would open the web view, it would have, I think, in between 5 or 10 input fields. It was like a conversation that we tried to set up with more or less information than you wanted. We heard that, yeah, when you're behind a computer, you most likely have access to all your financial data and you will get a more detailed version. So that actually, the developers worked on that and really made this project like we intended it to, which is also a skill on its own. And afterwards people were happy that we did it. It also got mentioned in the news, which is also really fun. Well, it's not the nicest business and it's a hard time for people.
Yeah, but that also makes it more rewarding because you know that people might be able to sleep a little bit better at night when they are going through such a tough time.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a way to guide people through their hard times as well.
I like it.
Yeah, definitely. What are some tools that you use on a daily basis?
Well, Excel, of course. Mostly to get the old view of the application that we have to rework. Right now, there's 3 Excel files open.
I love it.
And I love Adobe XD. So yeah, I started as an architect, so I got all the creative things done in Adobe. So I did my first wireframes in Photoshop. Also, the first years through college, I didn't have an office license. So I did all my reports and I faked my Excels through Photoshop. I really did. But mostly as a traditional UXer, pen and paper. I have some whiteboards here in the office as well that I use. And when I say pen and paper, I still have a fountain pen from when I was studying in high school. And it's kind of old school, but I like pen and paper.
Me too. I like the feel of it. And I feel like my brain is processing the things better when I can put it down on paper.
Yes. But it's hard. It's hard to get that back for developers. So when I give courses in UX, I start with, welcome everybody, and you can put your laptops away. And then you see the fear on their faces. And I start handing out Post-it notes. I also hand out Sharpies, which Sharpies are fun. And then they are a little happier. It's scary to write and to even try drawing.
Yeah, I feel you. I bring a bag full of colored pencils and markers and sketchbooks and Post-its as well at my UX courses for developers. But the most of them go all in. So that's always fun because I show them how crappy I am at drawing and explain that you don't have to be an artist to work with UX. As long as you can interpret whatever you're trying to convey to someone else, it doesn't matter if your lines is a little crooked or what color they are and stuff like that, at least not in the rude sense of it. So then they go all in and I like it.
Yeah, also with clients. I work together with a colleague of mine. We usually do our UX workshops with 2 UX specialists. He's a really good drawer. And it intimidates me so hard. On the other hand, he's really tall. I'm short. We usually go to businesses where the whiteboards are really high. So I always have the excuse, sorry, I cannot reach it. So that's why my line is not that straight as his line.
Do you find that the expectations on you from clients and users are that you already are an expert drawer or, well, anything with pen and paper, really?
Yes. That's the pitfall in the word design. As user experience design, it's not like, do not make things pretty. I make them work.
Yeah, I feel your pain. And that is one of my frustrations as well, because UX has a UX problem. Meaning exactly what you said. We can't call ourselves UX designers and think that people will understand that they will not get nice designs sent to them all the time. I mean, some UXer does that work and they do it great, but some of us don't. And that's kind of hard. And therefore, I think UX has a UX problem.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And also with all the hip tools that you can use nowadays with Figma and XD, it is just so easy to make high fidelity prototypes and to start from day one with importing style guides and to have all the buttons nicely designed, to have the typography figured out. to have everything right in order, and you lose yourself in the kind of design part when you should be focusing on what are we fixing, how are we fixing it, and what will your journey be through the application.
Yeah. While we are on the topic, because a lot of people use UX and UI interchangeably, how do you define UX and UI?
Well, UX is everything that you see is a visible layer. A UI can be a screen, can be something you interact with, the terminal of an ATM. It's all a UI. UX is more the way it makes you feel, the way it transports you through different UIs and how the interaction is evolving.
Yeah, I agree. I saw someone, I can't remember. I think it was Michael Medlock and Steve Herbst. I'm not sure. But they said that you have the how and the what. Like the UI is the what are we clicking, but the UX is the how are we clicking it and where does it take us?
Yes, it's like a bicycle. The bicycle is UI, but riding the bicycle gets you places. Riding the bicycle gives you the nice experience, hopefully, if you don't get hit.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully.
So does it matter what programming language or tools the company is using, or is UX platform agnostic?
It is platform agnostic. It is a solution to a problem that should be agnostic. We're looking a little bit at a difference in interactions. Well, I think more in the lines of, is it a mobile application? Is it a computer application? Because that will influence the way that you interact with it. Do you have a keyboard and mouse? Do you only have a touch screen? That together with the context makes up our decisions. Of course, if you go deeper into the inner workings and you go look at the patterns, and then I'm already diving into details, but if you see the Google and the Android and iPhones have different patterns for completing forms or for styling them or for having a different kind of recognition.
I love that you brought that up because that is something we see a lot, especially amongst tech people, but I think tech savvy people, maybe it's more correct way of describing it. When you work in one environment and that's where you live, like you are an Apple person, you have an iPhone, you have an iPad, you're using a Mac, and then you have maybe the Android or Windows users, and there's this fight where someone says, well, iOS is more intuitive. No, there's no such thing as intuitive. It's just a pattern you have learned or a pattern you have yet to learn. And that fight is kind of fun. I think you, Jimmy, didn't you have a colleague when it come to iPad and the Surface device?
Yeah, so that was Windows 8 when it came out. They had full screen applications. And to close one of those, from the top, drag it down, and it closed. That was the way you closed an application. And he was like, yeah, so why did Microsoft change this? It makes no sense because on the iPad, I don't even know what correct gesture is, but I think it's like 2 fingers and swiping up or something like that.
No, it was even worse because they had to long press something so they could get the overview, like where they see all the different applications. And from there, they needed to do something else. So there was like 4 different steps.
So according to him, that was intuitive. You knew how to do that, but on the Windows machine, it wasn't intuitive at all. How are we supposed to figure this one out? Well, you could follow the tutorial, but okay.
Only my mom does that.
How many people still follow tutorials?
My mom. She is really, I am not even kidding. She's really, really good at that because she was very non-technical, let's call it that. She was not a good tech user in the beginning, but then she got Windows 8, which for her was so much easier because everything was explained in icons. If she pressed the huge envelope, she knew that was her email. If she pressed the huge game icon, she knew that was her games, and etc. So that is when she started to, well, really get interested and collect the knowledge about computers. So when Windows 10 came around, she did watch the tutorial, but most tech-savvy people did not. And that was such a shift in the UI and UX of going from Windows Vista or whatever over to Windows 7 and over to Windows 8. But my mom watched the tutorial, so she was actually better than most tech-savvy people because she did watch the tutorial. So I kind of like that. Now she runs multiple user group, Facebook groups and what have you. She lives on the internet. She does all her shopping and banking stuff and such. And that's all thanks to good UX.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah. So my mom thanks you for the tutorials.
Yeah, that's awesome. But you see, like most people click away the tutorial or get their computer already configured and then they don't have access to the tutorial anymore. And that is why UX matters the most. It takes 10 seconds to download and install an app. People don't want to go through a tutorial. They have downloaded that app on the go. They want to know where it is. And that is, I think, 90% of the users that we see nowadays. But on the other hand, it's like your mom. I just bought my grandmother a new computer last weekend. Oh. So for her, she was still running Windows 7, which was hopelessly outdated. So she got security reminders every day. And so now that COVID is a little bit better, she's like, okay, Evelyne, please, you need to help me. I need to get a new computer. So I bought her a new computer and it took me, I think, 10 hours to configure the new computer, which was
Really?
a brand new Windows 11 computer, but getting everything set up, having the logins right, having all our accounts ready. I think I lost 5 years of my life.
Yeah.
I think the logging in, and I know security is important and I am all for authentication, but I have a strong hate for two-factor authentication in my UX heart.
Yeah, and that is so interesting because the more tech-savvy people, we install one thing at a time. We don't install 500 applications or 20 applications and have to go through that process all back to back. We usually do it when we need it, but you needed to set everything up. So whatever she needed, it was ready, which makes you think about, well, maybe this type of UX for that experience is more important than we thought.
Yes, and also the feeling that you might fall into a trap every time. All the time with the personalized cookies, with the personalized this, with the things that you might buy accidentally that you don't need. It is crazy how it is everywhere. It's like everything is coming to get you. And
yeah.
I think also as a UX view, we should really keep that in mind that people are scared. In an IT firm, they started this whole program to identify spam mails and phishing mails. And then you think like, okay, if colleagues in an IT firm can't even distinguish it, how is it for non-tech savvy people?
Exactly. My mom has solved it in a way that even if I send her a URL and we're not in an active chat, she will not click it until I tell her it's okay. So she is kind of hindering herself because she do not want to break her computer. I mean, it's good in a security point of view, but it's also bad because she can't do the things she needs to until she gets it confirmed. Like, I don't click on attachment unless I know what it is. So it's good, but it's also, well, she's restrained.
Yeah, she's like the most responsible user ever.
I know, it's insane. I don't know where she gets it from because it's not me. I didn't teach her that. She's actually a good example of that.
Yeah, but it's that feeling. You see, people are scared of clicking somewhere. People are scared of going into the internet. People are not scared, and they will
regret it later.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
Yeah, and like you said, it all comes down to a feeling, and that's not a good feeling.
Yeah, I saw somewhere a page that people made, and it was kind of a parody of every website nowadays. And so it was just a wireframe, but it opened up, and you got this notification in the taskbar that said, "We want to send you notifications."
Oh, yeah.
Block, allow. Then the next was, "We care about your privacy," which is always the biggest lie because they have to put it there. And standard, it will also, like, the accept everything is highlighted and is the primary action.
Yeah.
Which always makes me cringe.
UX dark patterns are everywhere.
Yeah, but they are great. Well, there's two things why I really like the dark patterns and the black hat UX, how it is called. The first one is the way that sometimes it is used if you're just out of ideas. You're kind of in a UX writer's block. You have no idea how to go forward, how to solve the problem, how to solve the puzzle. Then there's this one technique where you should think about how would an evil genius design this? And by just transforming the whole business process into something evil, it kind of just unblocks the creativity. And then afterwards, of course, if you use your powers back for good, but it gets the ideas. And
you can step out of your little box.
Yeah.
Quite far out.
Yeah, there was this one conference, Smashing Conference, which is a great UX conference. I don't know if you've ever been, Jessica.
I haven't.
You should. It's in September in Freiburg, which is also really lovely. The tiny conference, single track, I think 100, 200 people. It's amazing. They also have Legos.
Oh, I'm in.
And a Lego competition the whole time. It's a great conference. Everything is UX about it, from the coffee cups to the calendar. But yeah. Sorry, I'm looking forward to it. I'm getting off track. So there was this workshop that we did. I think it was Joe Leach that gave it. So he also wrote his book on psychology for designers. And at the end, we all designed an application for travel. And we all had just wireframes up. And they were all looking very fancy. My colleague drew the most of it, so it was really well drawn as well. And I think the last 2 hours, he told us about the known biases. And every bias that you can also read about in the amazing book of Thinking Fast and Slow. And so we got the list. I think on Wikipedia is the full list also, the list of cognitive biases. It's everything evil on one page. So they started out this little competition of, all right, you have designed your app. Now make it evil. And I think everybody even got this evil mustache to stick on, which made it really, it's a lot of fun trying to be evil. I think there was this other workshop on another year that was done by Josh Clark, also a UX hero. And we designed an application for asthma patients. So if they lost their inhaler, there was a social network and people could help them to the nearest pharmacy or lend them out an inhaler. And in the end, we made it evil. So we kind of...
Oh, no.
We made the application that would take a photograph every 10 seconds. And it would make this kind of an album afterwards, like Google Photos right now does as well. And it would be called While You Were Out. So then you could, while you were having an asthma attack, you could still see who helped you, how hard it was. So yes, if there's ever any evil geniuses that need UXers, I might be interested.
So while we're talking about bad UX, do you have like a favorite UX fail or something like you hate when they do that, or just a funny one?
That is not exporting something to Excel. Not counting that one.
Oh, I have so many. I have two-factor authentication.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because my phone's always out of the way, the battery's dead, something like that. It's always a big sigh. And then my colleagues already know two-factor authentication. Yes. So I really do not like that. Or forms that refresh.
Oh, my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Or forms you can't back out of if you want to change something when you realize you should have used your other email. Yeah.
I'm really a big fan of screenshotting everything before I push admits.
Yeah.
The same as validation. Sometimes you open up a form and it is it starts out red because nothing is filled in. And the validation is already hit before you have put anything in. And like, yeah, I'm getting to it. Kind of feeling.
Yeah, because that will get you in a bad mood. It doesn't motivate you because the form has already said that you're a bad form inputter.
Yes, exactly.
Bad form inputter. That's what we're going with. I'm
putting that on my CV. Yeah, I do also have form, as I love to hate forms. So in my UX class for developers, I have a very short amount of time. I have 2 days out of 12 weeks. So it's a very condensed, I need to pick what I do. But forms is quite a big part of that because you can do so much damage if you don't do forms correctly.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I also have this little part on forms, and it is followed by the big topic on design for failure. Because it's a point where backend fails, where there's so many stuff that can go wrong. You have transactions, you have different services, and people have no idea what happened with everything they just put in. There can be doubles, there can be nothing. And sometimes it doesn't really matter. It's not really critical. But
no, still give me a good error message.
Yes. Just knowing what's wrong. Just not disabling a button.
Yeah, exactly. And keep pulsating. Yeah, that is a crucial part. If there's one thing we need to give to the user is feedback, and good feedback. Not just, oops. Like, oops, what? Is it me? Is it you? Do I need to redo it?
Yeah, also how to recover from it.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not recoverable, just also say it. But
because if we don't, we kind of blame inadvertently the users. They will put blame on themselves. And we don't want that because we want happy users. Happy users comes back.
I kind of like what you're saying with error messages and all of that, but I just realized if you think about it, even like retries and all of that stuff is also part of the UX. Because if we can avoid the problem completely, that's even better.
That would be perfect.
Yeah, and especially in a way that every user can get it right.
Yeah.
Because yesterday I was at the supermarket and I was in the self-checkout line. I scan my Fidelity card. Nothing happens. And then all of a sudden I get a timeout. Server didn't respond in time and a whole stack trace.
No.
Oh, yes. So I also got kind of super user options. I could choose to retry it, or I could annul it, and then there was something else that I could do that would do some voodoo, especially. But so I can work with this, and I'm not freaked out by this. But so the internet connection of all the checkout lines was out. So that was a huge problem. And I think because nowadays there's more and more self-checkouts.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people working at the checkout. So they needed everyone to get there. And it was just a huge jam and a huge waste of time for everyone. Just if you clicked retry and if you clicked tried without, I don't remember what's the right phrasing, service, and then the HTTP code, you would send different headers and then it would work.
But that can be scary to a user as well.
Yeah, I just wanted some tomatoes.
Exactly. One of my favorite self-checkouts is one from Target in America, where we had to not only choose if we were bringing our own bags. Now, today's environment, we should probably bring our own bags, which we did. Actually, we didn't need a bag because we only bought a few things. I could not just press, I bring my own bags or I have no bags. That wasn't an option. I had to say explicitly, I brought my own bag, and then I had to choose between 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So first of all, Target is a big shop. You can buy your groceries, you can buy clothes, you can buy everything there. So it's not uncommon that you fill your cart. Why can I only bring 4 bags? And what's it to you? And also, why do I need to choose in a drop-down that I brought 0 bags? Why is that even an option?
Oh,
that's my favorite one. That's my favorite one. Of course, I took pictures and I use it in my presentations.
Oh, design fails is always really entertaining as well.
Yeah, I love it. Elevators, don't even get me started. There's no rhyme or reason to elevators.
No, and then you get into culture, which is also really important in UX. Is it the ground floor? Is it the first floor? What is 0?
It the one below? Yeah.
What is 1? The same with checkout lines. With online checkouts, sometimes if you go to order on American sites where everything is MasterCard or Visa, but you can also, they added support for some European banks. They have completely different flow to it. And sometimes it just breaks everything. Like you're trying to input a card and then they still ask for this CVC security code. But you just don't have that on every card. You get validation errors. And it was actually on the website to buy Office for my grandmother. So even at Microsoft, it was a problem.
Yeah, nobody is safe from UX fails. Nobody is safe.
Right, let's dive into some things not UX related, perhaps. Is there something that you're really passionate about that is not computer related?
Yes. Well, first of all, I like nature and plants. As you can see here, my office is full of plants. I found this little corner in the office. I just like to see things grow. And that happens really fast. And now it turned into a jungle after 2 years of COVID. But especially I like everything that can fly. So during the weekends, I go skydiving most of the time. And in the wintertime, when it's too cold outside to go skydiving, I'm actually a licensed falconer. So I have my own hawk and a falcon that we fly.
That sounds so cool.
That's pretty cool. Why do you only do that during the winter?
Well, it's during hunting season, really. So from I think February, March until the summer, the birds change their feathers. So it's called molting.
Right.
And then it's best to just leave them quietly. We just fly them short distances, but they need all their food, all their energy to get nice new feathers for the new season. So right now we started training them. And they're doing really great in their new coats of shiny, shiny feathers. Which is
Aww.
awesome.
Did you name your falcon Millennium?
No.
Missed opportunity.
Should. The falcon was already named.
Next one.
Next one. Yes, definitely. No, right now they're named after famous skydivers.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's fun. And also one is called Odin because he was rescued and where his previous owner just had a ridiculous name for him. He was called, well, it's in Dutch, but he was called Chippeke, which is like a tiny little crisp. And it's this impressive angry bird. It should have a name that he can be proud of. So I called him Odin. And I was really happy.
So we have a couple of questions we ask all our guests. What was your first computer?
Oh, my first computer. It was a Toshiba. And I think I was 8 years old. So it was in 96 that I had him. Yeah, it was great. My dad worked in a bank and he had, well, his best friend was the head of IT. So they had one extra computer just as a backup. And he could take it home. It was a laptop in that time, which,
Nice.
yeah, okay, it weighs as much as my car, but it was a laptop. And it was just, I did so many things on that. I played Chips Challenge, a game from 89 from that was packaged with Windows, I think, in that time. And then I kept on breaking my computer, but I also kept on fixing it because otherwise my dad would be really angry. So this is how I learned to work with computers. I remember one time that my mom was really pressing me to tidy up my room, as you have to do with any child. And so I was like, okay, this is going to be spotless. And I cleaned my room and then I started with my computer and I removed every file that I didn't need.
Ouch.
So at that time, the C Windows folder was not protected at all.
Oh.
So I deleted everything. So that I remember how I needed to fix that. But it was okay. My mom still had a computer and I could make these recovery disks. Like you needed 10 of those disks at a time. This floppy disk. Entire OS is on floppy disk. And then I learned how to, as a good ITer at that time, how to do everything with my keyboard. Because I was playing with my mouse and I removed the little ball. Because it was at that time that we all had marbles. Yeah. And it turned out to be a super marble. So I lost it. So I had to do everything on keyboard from then on.
So what was the first language you ever coded in?
Yes, Dreamweaver. If you can call that a language. You know, I started out as a Dreamweaver somewhere in the summer.
I remember Dreamweaver.
Dreamweaver and Flash. I loved Flash animations. Right now I love Lottie integration.
Yeah.
And Lottie files. But yes, Flash. I was a big Flash believer.
Okay, so one of the most important questions we have, Marvel or DC? I mean, you did mention Odin. Just saying, hint, hint, nudge, nudge. There's a right answer and a wrong answer. And Jimmy does not agree.
I feel like this is a trap. Can I just go for Doctor Who instead?
You can get extra points for Doctor Who.
I really do like Doctor Who, and for the rest, I'm kind of Switzerland. I was raised by between Batman and Catwoman, between Superman and.
Oh, I heard Batman. So we are ending on that point.
So I'm guessing you figured out who's Marvel and who's DC at our house.
I think I have. How does it work?
We tolerate the other team as well.
So what about movie night? You have 2 TV rooms or?
No, we watch all of it.
To be fair, we did a stream yesterday and Jessica had a Harley Quinn t-shirt, so.
And then again, Rocket Raccoon is Marvel, so there's that. We do cross-pollinate.
If I think about our cosplays, I mean, I've cosplayed as the Punisher, I've cosplayed as Iron Man, and you cosplayed as Harley Quinn.
And as what's-her-face from Marvel.
Oh, right.
Gamora. Yeah. So I'm at least 50-50. You're purely Marvel.
I don't think I can pull off Batman. It's a little bit too...
Alfred?
Hey!
Okay.
Are you calling me old?
Now I know why you're in different rooms doing this together.
I'm sleeping on the couch tonight. Maybe I'm just calling you British or helpful.
I don't think so. No.
Also, I'm older than you, so there's that.
That's true.
So that wins most conversations. Yeah, we try to keep it 50-50 a little bit. I think every Friday we keep superhero movie night and we make burgers and then we watch a superhero movie.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
like
it's mostly my colleague that chooses for me. So it's mostly Nico. I ask him, like, give me one of the movies, and then he will take care that it is in the right order of the Marvel universe or it is the right one from DC. But so, yeah.
I'm glad he's doing his job.
Yeah.
Well.
He's making this humanity a little bit better.
So if our listeners want to find you, where can they go? Do you have Twitter, blog?
I did have a Twitter, but I have to say I started out 10 years ago. I was still studying, and I have neglected social media a lot. I'm trying to get away from my computer for the most part that it is and getting into flying outside of work. But who knows? Who knows? Maybe with the next conference coming on, I might get back into Twittering if people tell me how to use it. Maybe I should make a UX study on that as well.
Oh, yes, please. I'm in.
Sometimes I just want to see comments and I'm a lurker and I just want to see something and I'm like, oh no, I'm posting. It's like my aunt that always posts her Google queries as a Facebook update.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We all know someone like that.
We do.
All right. So thank you so much for joining us. It's been so much fun.
It has been so much fun.
Yeah, thank you for having me.